Hello, hello. Good morning. Well, it is for me right now. This is the Dog Geek Podcast, and I am your host, Ashley. I am here with my morning coffee, and just took the dogs for a walk, and they are finally settled down enough that I hope I can record the podcast without them interrupting. We shall see. You know, when you have kids and dogs, sometimes it's hard to do anything quiet because either the kids are getting your attention or talking too loud or needing you, or the kids are at school and you think, great, I have time at home to do something in peace and quiet. But if you have a dog or multiple dogs, that's not always the case because then I'm managing two dogs all the time. So in any case, oh my gosh, coffee. All right, so I wanted to talk about a really popular topic amongst all dog owners, which is walking. Why do I feel like my dog is walking me? All right, so common, a huge problem with many dog owners. And I have two dogs. I have Penelope is a French bulldog, and she will be 4, I think. Oh my gosh, 4. And then I have Broly, who is an American bulldog puppy, and he will be 7 months old. Is it today? Oh, if today's the 4th, he's 7 months old. I don't even know what today's date is. Anyway, so he's a big puppy, so he's doing lots and lots of learning these days. But walking both of them can be quite the challenge. And in training classes, that tends to be one of the biggest issues that clients have is my dog pulls on leash. My dog doesn't walk nice on the leash, right? They're always pulling or tugging or crisscrossing or barking, lunging, and it is quite the problem. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why they're doing it, what's happening, how can I fix the situation so that my walks with my dog are enjoyable and not frustrating. There's also times where we have a neighbor who has a beagle, and sometimes I'll walk my dogs and her beagle doesn't quite care about my two. And my two get so hyped up when they see this beagle. And the beagle walks so nice on leash, doesn't pull, beautiful little trot. And sometimes I wonder, you know, did that dog just come that way, right? Did the dog just happen to always walk nice on a leash and be a good dog on leash? Or did that person do training with that dog to get the dog to understand what it means when I'm on leash and how we want them to walk? Is it because they walk the dog twice a day? I think they walk in the morning and in the evening, and the dog's getting nice walks. So many questions, and some of that it's probably a little bit of a combination of everything, right? There are some dogs that I think are just a little bit more, I don't want to say mellow per se, but they just have a slower pace of things in life, right? They're not urgent to really do a lot, and those dogs probably walk nicer on a leash, right? An English bulldog might walk nicer on a leash because they're a little bit slower in their just movements. They're sometimes less enthused to do certain things. Whereas then you have any terrier breed, right? They're very driven dogs, and they're driven by scent, and those dogs are super charged up, ready to go. So you put them on a leash and restrict them, and they get crazy, right? So let's talk about the pulling on leash, right? So when you get your dog, okay, from whether it was a puppy or whether you got them from a rescue, the second you put them on a leash and take them for that walk, or have to take them to the vet, or take them to the puppy store because you want to buy them stuff and you want to take them out and you want to socialize. The moment that leash gets put on the very first time, the training begins. The lessons are taking place. Even if you are not doing the training, right? You're not trying to teaching your dog what to do or what not to do. Your dog is getting lessons on that leash, all right? Most likely, they're not the lessons we want them to learn, okay? But when they're puppies, maybe it's cute. They're not as strong, right? It's adorable. They want to see people and they're pulling and it's cute. So what happens, right? We put them on this leash. We want to take them out, get them exercise, get them walking, right? Bring them out to the vet, all those things. The second we put them on leash, all right, your dog wants to go, okay? Just like they would in a backyard, just like they do in your home. They think, great, I can just go. They do not realize that they are tethered to you by, let's say, an average 6-foot leash, and that their movement is minimized, all right? So we put them on this leash. They immediately go they immediately go to where they want to go. And what's happening is they immediately put tension on that leash because they don't understand that they're connected to you by this leash. And they start to put tension on it. It's putting pressure, whether it's on the neck, on the harness, and that's the pulling is created. Now, again, when they're puppies especially, we allow it to happen, right? We go, oh my gosh, look how cute, he's so excited. And we let them pull us to every person they want to see. We let them pull to whatever bush they want to smell. We let them pull through the vet's office. And we think, oh my gosh, they're so happy, right? Your dog is learning. When I feel tension on my collar or on my harness, I'm going to get to where I want to go because they've been rewarded to get there in the past. So we pick them out. They see a person. They want to say hi. They're pulling. And your dog's thinking, yes, the harder I pull, the more tension I have on my equipment here, the faster and the more rewarding it is because I'm going to finally get to this person to say hello or finally get to that bush. So every single time your dog's on a leash, lessons are taking place. All right? So there's my little penny. It's okay, baby. From the get-go, your dogs are learning lessons. And what our job is to teach them what lessons we want them to learn while on that leash. So it does start right away. Oh, Penelope. Now she's upset. She wants to join me in this room. Broly has a bone, little love. Go get your bone. So let me see if I can focus in here. So when you are going to take your dog on a leash, all right, especially when you're doing any training, they're not pros at walking on a leash, all right? I've never met a dog who was like a pro at walking on a leash from the get-go. So we need to have rewards with us to teach our dogs where it... All right, let me take a pause here. Take care of my little Penelope, and I'll be right back. Enjoy this short break. Okay, I'm back. So let's see. Hopefully I've got everybody situated here. So let's get back on track. It's our job to teach them what we want them to do on leash. Because for your dog, really, they don't care if they're pulling or not. Okay? Dogs are going to do what feels best for them and what's most rewarding to them. So we need to teach them that when they stay with us, when they're on this leash, all right, and they stay within what I'm going to call a reinforcement bubble or reinforcement zone, that's going to be the most beneficial for them, and that this is where they want to be, all right? So if you take that 6-foot leash and you make that, you're the center point, you make that big circle around you with the leash extended, that's our reinforcement bubble. So that's the distance. I'm sorry to interrupt your podcast, but I'm here to say that a big chunk of the middle of this podcast that I didn't save. And I'm a little annoyed by that. It was probably the longest stretch of the podcast that I was able to do without interruption. And I felt like I did it really well, and I talked about a lot of things, and I got great information out there. And then I'm not really sure what happened in the saving mode part, but it didn't save the whole thing. It only saved like the first minute of that recording. So I'm going to do my best to talk about what I did talk about in that midsection, and then I'm hopefully going to learn from this experience and do the podcast better next time. It is a learning process, so it'll get better as it goes. So I finished with chatting about the reinforcement bubble. So in this midsection, I was talking a lot about the equipment that we're using to walk our dogs. So we have walking our dogs on a collar, which is an okay option, except if you have a really strong puller. If you have a really strong puller or a dog that like sporadically pulls very fast, like Penelope, if she sees, my little Frenchie, if she sees a squirrel or a bunny rabbit, she immediately gets focused into chase mode and she'll go and dart for that rabbit and it'll yank on that collar. So collars are okay unless you think you have a really good, really strong puller, because you don't want to put all that pressure on the neck. It's just not good for them. So I would recommend then either using a harness or using a gentle leader, which is the fabric that goes around the muzzle and then it clips around the back of the head. Those I like. They are not like muzzle type things where people think, oh my gosh, your dog is going to bite or something. It's not that. These gentle leaders, they're able to drink water, eat food, pant, their mouth can be completely free. What those tools do, I used it for my Great Dane because she was much bigger than I am. And it controls the nose and the head. So when they go to pull, because dogs lead with their nose, when they go to pull, it turns the nose, which turns the body, okay? The body follows the nose. So when you use that, and all the tools that you're using, whether it's a collar, a harness, or that gentle leader, you're going to have to train on all of those. There is not a tool that's going to just fix your pulling problem and allow the dog and teach the dog not to pull. You're going to have to train on every piece of equipment. It's just what piece of equipment is the best fit for your dog. So I used that gentle leader. Now, once she got better at walking, once she learned about, the reinforcement bubble and having that slacked leash and all of that jazz, then I transferred her to a front clip harness. Now, I prefer front clip harnesses because it gives my dog a change of direction when they pull. So they're pulling forward, right? They get tension on the leash. And because there's a clip on the chest, when it pulls, it turns the chest slightly one way or the other. And then I can encourage my dog to come back to me that way. So it does change the directional focus a little bit. If you're clipping on the back of a harness, there is no directional change. So we find that this is when we get the dog's pull and maybe the front paws come up off the ground because there's this pulling back from the shoulder blades, but there's no turn of the body. And a lot of times too, with anything we run into some opposition reflex, which your dogs have, which is kind of like a tug of war. When they feel tension one way, they're encouraged to pull the other way. That's why sled dogs, when they're doing pulling, or Bernese mountain dogs would do cart pulling and those sorts of things, they're on harnesses and they're clipped to the back on the shoulders. They have the most strength that way to pull forward, and they actually enjoy it. It's encouraging for them to continue to pull, and they feel that pressure and they continue to go forward. So that's why I don't prefer a back clip harness. And then some of them have both a front clip and a back clip. And that sometimes can be more helpful for some people to, quote unquote, steer their dog one way or the other. Sometimes it's nice to have 2 points of contact. So those are kind of our general tools there. I do not and would never encourage anyone to walk on a choke chain because those are just, you feed one end through the other and it creates a loop. And then as the one side pulls, it makes the loop smaller and smaller and tightens around the dog's neck. So these, they don't have like a stopping point, most of them. I have found ones that do have a gauge I can stop it on, and I'll use those for work because for a safety purpose. But mine have a stop point, so I measure it out to the dog's neck size, so I have a stopping point. But I can loosen it quickly so I can put the dog back in the house. Anyway, so, but these chains, all right, they don't have stopping points. The point of those is they just get tighter and tighter around the dog's neck. It's supposed to be unpleasant so that the dog lets up the pressure to release that tightness. But sometimes the drive is too strong. The focus is too strong. The stimulus that the dog is reacting to is too close. And then our dog isn't in a thinking brain anymore. All right. Then they're just zoned in on something and they'll choke themselves. All right. So then we get a lot of dogs that do a hacking, right? They go, right? They hack because they choked themselves. So, and you'll find that on regular collars too. But so that's why I don't like those. Then they have prong collars. So those are the ones that have the 2 prongs on the inside. And again, that mechanism is to tighten and put pressure on the dog's neck. Same kind of thing that I dislike. I don't enjoy putting discomfort or pain around my dog's neck so that they'll stop pulling, okay? Or corrective training, because that's what they'll do. Some of those tools will be used as correctives. So if they see something, they go to pull, they get a snap, they get a sharp poking into the neck from those prongs, or they'll get a choked snap from the collar, and it's supposed to be a corrective thing. But I don't like putting pain and discomfort on my dog for training purposes. So I wouldn't use those prongs. And then, of course, shock collars, which, again, highly do not recommend shock collars. I don't feel there's any need to shock our dogs for any purpose. I don't think that it fixes any problems. So those 3 things I would consider inhumane tools to use and would never recommend them for anything. All right. So the last thing I think I talked about in this section was leashes. So typically there's 6-foot leash is kind of your average standard, and then they have different lengths for those. The one thing I want you to not purchase would be a retractable leash. All right. They're not meant for walking around the block. All right. The retractable leashes were meant for different activities, like taking your dog out and letting them explore a section of, let's say, a park or something. So you could buy maybe a 10-foot or a 20-foot long line, okay, a long lead. You would clip that to the dog's harness and you would let them go. I say harness because it's safer if it tightens, right? Or if your dog gets excited and it's going to pull, it's safer to have it on a harness than to have it around that collar, okay? Because they're at such a far distance from you. In any case, so you would put a retractable leash on that and let them go explore. So this isn't a walk around the block. This is letting my dog be a dog, explore an area. They're free to go in whatever direction they want to, and you're giving them the space to do it. All right, so there is no reinforcement bubble here. You can also do work on recalls with the retractables because it's allowing my dog to get a distance away from me, and I'm able to call them back and work on recall work, okay? Coming when called. So that's what that's more used for. When you're trying to use a retractable leash on a normal walk around the block or in the pet store or the vet's office, there's a lot of problems that come into play with those things. First and foremost, the leads on those have constant tension. So there is no loose slack in the line. And it's designed that way so it'll reel itself in. It kind of reminds me of like a tape measurer. It'll reel itself in really quick, or you can pull it out and get more length really quickly. So there is always constant tension on that dog's leash or harness when using a retractable. So we are encouraging that pull effect. that, oh, they feel pressure. This is great. This means I'm gonna go. So I don't like it for that reason. Another reason is it is very difficult to manage with your hands. So it's not a flexible lead. It's not easy to switch from hand to hand because it's hard plastic. And it's also relatively heavy. And I say that because it's not easy to just switch to the other hand. So I've had some discomfort when using it if a client has it for dog grooming, and I take the dog and I have this thing. It's cumbersome and it's uncomfortable. The other thing is it doesn't teach my dog any sort of reinforcement bubble on a walk. So it's telling my dog that maybe you have 3 feet here and maybe you lock it at that point because of something, there's a dog across the street and you lock it at that 3 foot line. Or maybe my dog has 10 feet and then I lock it, right? And now I see a dog across the street and now it's locked. And then you do the unlocking to try to shorten it, and you throw your hand forward, you lock it, you pull back. You throw your hand forward, you lock it, you pull it back. And we're trying to shorten the length. Well, all your poor dog is getting is confusion, right? What's happening here? They're getting yanked back, and then it's loose a little, and then it's yanked, and then it's loose a little, and then there's this dog, and then they're reacting, and then it's a bit of a mess, all right? So it's not teaching my dog any kind of distance from me where they need to be. Then if your dog does spot something, all right, like a squirrel or a bunny, all right, dogs are predators. So when they do see these things, they can kick into a prey drive. Not all of them will, but they might see something go or move, click into prey mode, and they want to chase it. All right, dogs love the game of chase. So now you have a dog that's maybe 8 feet away from you and is bolting towards an animal, and you're trying to hold on to this heavy plastic weird thing. They pull, it hurts your hand because there's no flexibility in it because it's hard plastic. Maybe you fall, maybe you let it go, maybe your hand gets stuck and you bruise it or break your fingers. But if you drop the handle, now your dog that's running after a squirrel, now they're getting chased by this plastic thing that's banging on the ground, and that the line is shortening because of that tape, measuring tape effect, right? Where it's closing, it's reeling in the line. So now your dog's getting afraid because there's this thing clunking towards them that they don't understand what it is. So now they're running away from that object. So big mess there, all right? And then lastly, on a lot of the retractable leash boxes, they actually give warning for injury. So, and what I mean by that is I think there's like an amputation warning for your finger on some of those. If they get wrapped around your ankle for some reason, you'll get a pretty bad brush burn happening there. And if it gets wrapped around your dog's paw or something, or another dog, if you're letting your dog see other dogs and they circle and whatever, and it tightens or something happens and it wraps around another dog's leg, and it tightens and it gives them that brush burn, it can very easily cut into their leg. And then guess what? You have someone else needs to take their dog to a vet on your account, or your dog needs to go to the vet. So I never recommend that anyone buy a retractable. I don't see the need for them. I would prefer you buy the long lines if you're going to take your dog out and let them sniff things in like a park, and you want them to have that freedom of 10 feet, 20 feet to, quote unquote, be a dog. I'd rather you get that than the retractables. So those are some of the tools. Those are some of the things to think about. Not every tool is going to work for every dog, okay? And every tool you choose, every piece of equipment, all right, these words are interchangeable here, is going to have to be trained. All right, no dog is going to go, oh yeah, you put me on this harness, now I know what to do. It's foreign to them. All right, it's not part of their DNA. They don't know it by, they just don't know it. Okay, train. Patience. Okay, it takes a while to, one, change a learned behavior like pulling. So if your dog already pulls, you're going to have a lot of patience and go slow. Change will happen slowly. All right, they've been pulling for how long? Okay, it's not going to change overnight. And see, I've lost my train of thought. Pick the right tool. Be patient. Short lessons are better. I think that's it. I'm going to wrap this mid-recording session up because I can't think of anything else that I said. I apologize for this mid-podcast interruption. I'm going to hop you back on to the last little bit that we're going to wrap up and jump back into that break. Not the break. We're going to jump back into the recording. And we're back. Dogs had to take a potty break. So hopefully we can wrap this up without any more interruption. So talked about a lot of things today, lots of information. There's a couple little things I did want to go talk about to wrap this up. One is that let's say we've done all the work, all right, teaching our dogs about the reinforcement bubble, being on a loose leash, having a slack in that leash and enjoying that walk. Then you decide you want to take a different route that day. Oh, telephone. That was the phone. Yes, it was. Let's decide you want to take a different route that day, right? You've been going around your block. Now you want to cross the street and go around the other block. Be prepared to have to tap back into your early training. If your dog your dog gets very accustomed to that routine of walking around the same block every day. So the smells are very familiar because the same things, the same people, the same animals basically have crossed in that path. The trees smell the same. The bushes smell the same. Like, it's the same thing. Grasses smell the same. And your dog knows that path and that routine, and they're familiar with the smells. Then you take them across the street, and your dog goes, what? The world just opened up to them insanely. They're like, I didn't know that this was over here. And then you get a lot of the same old behaviors of, I'm so excited, I want to sniff and follow this scent all over the place. And you might be like, I don't understand what the heck just happened. You've been doing so well walking on leash. Well, you've just upped their environmental stimulus. All of a sudden, their world's opened up. There's new smells on this side of the block. Different dogs walk here. Different animals cross here. The grass is different. The trees are different. The people smell is different. Everything. So be prepared to have to tap back into stopping when they pull, rewarding when they turn back, rewarding that bubble in a new environment. Same thing's going to happen if you take them out to the dog store. You're competing with a lot of different things, and your dog is not used to walking in that environment. So tap back into the beginning. Going to the vet, tap back into the beginning. If you're going to go on a hike, right? Maybe you do have a longer line, but you're going to have to tap back into some of those skills with your dog. So there's that. The other thing I want to talk about briefly, but I think I might do a whole nother podcast, is a skill for us in training that's called LAT. L-A-T. Look at that training. So basically it means when my dog sees something right away, all right, we're catching this the moment they see it. We are marking it and rewarding it. So this morning I took my dogs on a walk, and there were people doing leaf work, blowing the leaves and cleaning it up. They both looked at the man on the truck or whatever, and I said yes. They turned away from the man on the truck, back to me, and I rewarded. So what I'm doing is, before my dog is reacting, before they decide that I'm either going to, bark or pull or run away or whatever, before they even make a choice, I am creating a positive experience for them with that thing. So the second they see it, I say, yes, good. Like, they see that thing, good dog. Here's a food reward. Now I'm pairing seeing a man on the truck with a positive thing that's flooding their brain with good things. So every time they see a person on the truck, they know they can come back to me. for a reward. Eventually, I'm going to fade that to sometimes a treat, sometimes just a nice pet, right? I don't have to food reward every time. After a while, I can do different things. But it's rewarding them and flooding them for just seeing something, as opposed to when they're past that point and they've decided this thing is scary, or I want to go see it and I'm excited, or I'm anxious or nervous. So before they tap into any of those things, right? I see another dog, across the street. Yes, reward. Maybe I am making more space in that case. I might take them, turn around, go the other way. I might wait behind a car. If it's on the same side of the street, I will always cross the street, get them to the other side, and create space and distance to where they can calm down. But I'm doing a lot of pairing. See the dog? Yes, reward. See the garbage truck? Yes, reward. See the squirrel? Yes, reward. But I'm catching them before they react, okay? That's a whole nother training session or skill that can take some time to learn. But it's incredibly helpful at getting them before. It's like a preemptive approach to after they've decided and started to have behaviors we dislike, okay? Now, the last thing is I like to say when you're taking a dog for a walk, it's not for you, all right? It's a dog walk. Taking my dog out for a dog walk, okay? And the reason I say this is because it's not enjoyable for your dog to stand next to you. Maybe I'm making an assumption. I don't believe it is enjoyable for your dog to stand next to you on the concrete and not sniff and walk like a perfect, gentleman or a perfect lady and never put the head down and just trot, all right? I don't think that's enjoyable for the dog, okay? So if you want to get that power walk in, right, and you want to just go by yourself or go with a friend, all right? Don't take your dog, because ideally what your dog wants to do is get the news of the day, okay? They want the nose down. They want to follow and track scent. They want to go to the left and to the right because scent is not in a straight line, all right? Scent is all over the place in a big zigzag circle around. So that's what your dog wants to do. They want to get the news. So if you are going to take your dog on a walk, expect them to be doing that, to want to follow a little bit of a scent, you might have to stop. I stop very often on our walks because I want them to be able to get the enrichment of the environment. I let them sniff the bush, it's spots on the grass that are random to me, but apparently something there is really good. Let them sniff that, and then a couple seconds, doesn't have to be for 5 minutes, and then let's go is my cue, we're moving. So I've let you sniff, right? I've let you get some information. Now let's go, we're gonna keep going. The best analogy I have for this, to put it in different terms, is if you took a young child to the carnival and there's all these rides around them everywhere you look. There's either rides, there's food, there's candy, there's games everywhere at the carnival. And you tell them, no, hold my hand. You're going to stay with me and enjoy the experience of the carnival. But you can't go on any of the rides, and you can't eat any of the food, and you can't play any of the games. But you're having fun, right? We went to a carnival. You're having fun, okay? Obviously, the kid is not having fun. That kid wants to have the food, the candy. They want to play the games. They want to go on the rides. So that's the same thing with your dog on a walk, all right? We took our dog on a walk. The world is their carnival. And you said, no, you can't go on any of those rides. You can't enjoy any of the environment. You need to stay right with me. But we're having fun, right? No, your dog, I don't believe, is having fun if you don't allow them to go on the rides, okay? So keep that in mind when you want to take your dog out for a walk, that it's for them, not for you. So let them be dogs and let them enjoy the news of the environment. And they're going to be tired at the end, but they're more going to be mentally tired. Then when you get back inside, If they didn't get their cardio exercise before your walk, be prepared to still do cardio exercise when you get home. Because especially if they're younger dogs. If you have an older dog, you might be fine. But a younger dog like my puppy at 7 months, we do our walk and we come in and guess what? He's amped to play. So his brain is tired from all the information, but his body is not. All right? So I recommend cardio exercise before your walk, but a walk is not sufficient body exercise. It's great mental exercise. Not great body exercise unless you're, hiking and running and all those other things. That's a different story. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you got a lot of great information and a little bit better understanding about why it can be frustrating walking our dogs on a leash and why you might feel like your dog is walking you. There's a lot more that I could get into, like leash frustration when your dogs are biting on the leash, or why does my dog, walk away but then doesn't want to walk to the house, or my dog pulls when we see our house, or, whoa, there he is. There's a lot more we can discuss, but that's some basics. And I hope it was super helpful. I'm really happy to talk about this subject because it's a tough one to deal with, because it takes time and patience. All right, patience is key with training. Things will not happen overnight. There are no quick fixes, and you're going to have to be patient and take time in order to make change. All right, have an awesome day, and I look forward to talking to you again. Signing off, the Dog Geek. See you later.